Hello again, friends. Thank you so much for joining me today. My name is Diane, and I'm going to be walking you through creating painterly human skin in chalk pastel. Let's get to it. All right, so before we get started with the actual drawing, I'm just going to walk you through the materials you will need. You'll need a set of chalk pastels. As you can see, I have a pretty large one with lots of choices. If you have that, that's fine. If you have a smaller one with fewer choices, that's fine. If you have an extremely small one with, say, only 12 colors, you can even take this class with those. You would just have to do a lot more mixing of your colors. For example, if we're using a kind of rusty reddish brown, you would need to layer red, brown, probably some orange, maybe a little yellow and some white, and blend all those colors together. So there's a lot more mixing and blending involved, but you can still do this class. You will also need a pencil for drawing, probably with an eraser. We're just going to draw a really quick ear because that's what we're going to be copying today, is this gentleman's ear. And you'll need a printout of this photo of this painting. This painting is by John Singer Sargent. It's called Portrait of Gabrielle Fauré, pardon me if I'm not saying that correctly, done in 1889, oil on canvas, and you can see that information printed on the screen below. So go ahead and pause the video, take down that information, search for it on the internet, print it out, and have it for your reference to work on during this class. You'll also, this is optional, but you'll probably really want some sort of rag or old cloth to wipe your fingers on because it does get a little messy. So that being said, we can just get right to it. So all we're going to draw for this class is just the outline of the ear and a little detail on the inside. So don't worry about making it exact. This is really an experience that's more about color, applying the color to look like painterly brushstrokes and to match the colors in the picture. Less about drawing accuracy, but you can certainly be accurate if that is meaningful to you. So in order to see how big the ear is, I'm just going to measure using the corner of my tip of my pencil and my thumbnail. I'm going to see how wide that ear is and compare it to how long. And it looks like it's about half. Yeah. So I'm going to make up how big I want the ear to be. I'm going to say I want it this tall, and it's definitely tilting down to the right. So I just want to kind of make sure that angle is approximately right. And that's just a made-up length. And then I'm going to find where half of that is, and that's how wide it is. And that's really the extent of the precision we're going to explore today. Other than that, you can just freehand draw. In fact, you don't even need to do that much. If you want to just freehand the whole thing, that's fine. But I like to have at least some sense of accuracy when it comes to size. So now I'm going to just draw the ear. It's got a little kind of bump at the bottom. The lobe goes into the face and then sort of up, something like that. And then on the inside, there's this little kidney bean shape. Looks like it starts kind of far down, kind of far up. So it takes up about maybe a little bit more than a third, and it's kind of centered, a third of the ear size. And then I'm just going to draw approximately what I see there. It's going to do something like that. And then there's also this top edge that I'm going to continue this line kind of going up, out, and down. Something like that. It does not have to be that accurate. And now I'm going to go back and just erase everything very lightly because I don't want my pencil lines to be dark. I don't want them to show through the chalk pastel. So I'm going to make them barely visible. And I'm pretty happy with that. So put my pencil aside, and now we can get into the color. So I'm going to start with kind of a light flamingo-y pink, pinkish orange for the main skin color, which seems to match that pretty well. And that's going to be for the ear and the face. Oh, you know what? I also did want to draw a line for the back of the neck, come to think of it. So that's going to hit the ear right about there and kind of go down at an angle. And then that'll be the top of the shirt. So the neck is going to be a slightly grayer version of this color. So I'm just going to put this color on over the ear and the face. So keeping the edge pretty sharp by using a corner of the pastel to kind of go around the outside edge and then color in. Don't worry about covering it up completely. In fact, don't cover it up completely because you do want some of the paper texture showing through at this point, since this is just a first layer. So something like that, just a piece of the ear and a piece of the face, or excuse me, the whole ear and a piece of the face, lightly colored in. And then it does create dust. So you can either, if you're in a place where you can dump it off to the side, I happen to have a trash can here, so I'm going to dump it into the trash. Or if you're outside, that's even better. Or you can just blow it off if you don't mind it getting on your table or surface. And then you can use a finger and go around and rub it. So what we're doing here is just making the color a little more spread out and even as a base for all the other colors we're going to put in. Then I'm going to do the same thing on the neck with just a slightly grayer pink, since the neck is more in shadow. So again, if you have a very limited palette of colors to choose from, you would start with white as a base, since these are both very light colors. And then you could put a little bit of red, a little bit of orange over this one, and then the same thing over this one with a little bit of gray on top. And probably more white to mix it in and blend it. Okay, so there's our base. Now I'm going to go in with kind of a golden brown and start putting in some shading on the cheek area where it kind of meets the jawline next to the ear. And I'm going to zoom in a bit here. You don't really need to see my pastel anymore, so we're going to get a little closer. Okay, so back to the browns. I'm going to put some in on the neck here, on the back of the neck. Just as a base, it looks like it gets a little darker on the collar of the shirt. And even though the shadow under the ear is very dark, I'm going to put this down as a first layer. There's a little bit inside the ear too. Looks like I actually made that shape a little too high, so I'm going to lower it now with the chalk pastel. You have the leisure of doing those sort of edits as you go, if you notice something. So that's pretty good for the brown, maybe a little more right there. And then I'm going to add some kind of reddish color for the kind of reddish glow on the face. And I'm not blending with my finger right now because I'm going to put all these colors in and then use the pastels themselves to blend. And it creates, that's kind of what creates that painterly brushstroke effect. And it's really fun. So I'm resisting the urge to soften all these colors in right now, even though I would kind of like to because it feels like progress. I'm going to put a little bit of this pinkish color over the top of the ear because that's a little bit darker pink than the bottom. And a little higher into the cheek where it gets a little bit rosy right there. And now I'm going to use kind of an olive green and put some right next to the earlobe and as it goes down into the jawline. And I'm pressing a little harder now because I'm having to kind of fight the other colors I've just put in. Not fight, but maybe compete with. I'm going to put a little bit on the back of the neck. Just kind of smash that in there. I'm going to get rid of the dust by shaking it off. And then I think I will go in with some lighter color now. So I'm going to pick out a light ivory and just go in and use this as a blending tool. So this is not the last time we're going to blend with, actually it's the first time we're blending with a pastel. So now I'm pressing pretty hard and that's what's creating those painterly brush strokes. And notice I'm going in the direction of the brush strokes on the reference to try to replicate not only the texture, but the direction the surface is going. And it's creating a lot of dust, which I'll get rid of in a minute. I'll just blow it off. Goodbye, dust. But you can see what a cool effect this has, putting one pastel over another. So a good general rule of thumb when you're blending with pastel, one pastel over another, is use the lighter color to blend. So whatever you're blending, make sure it's almost impossible to blend with a darker color. In fact, I think it is impossible. You have to pick either the color you've put down as your base or an even lighter color, depending on what your desired outcome is. But I'm actually trying to add some more light to my picture, so that's why I chose a lighter color. One thing I should mention also is your pastels will get dirty, so just wipe them off on the side of your page or on your rag, whatever's convenient. And then I'm going to keep going, blending into the ear. And kind of making a U shape over the top. Blending this green in, or sorry, the brown, golden brown. This golden brown I'm going to blend, but I'm going to try to keep the bottom edge pretty sharp because that's what it does in the picture. But on the left, I'm going to blend that out more because it sort of gets, it sort of disappears right there. Get rid of the dust. Color right here. And then I'm going to keep adding. So put my light ivory down for a minute. And I'm going to add some dark right under the ear. So I'm picking out a really dark reddish brown. So it almost looks black here, but if you blend it, you can kind of see it's more of a reddish brown, kind of purpley even. And I'm going to use that for the shadow right under the ear. That's really the only place it is. It goes down the back of the neck a little bit, but that's pretty much it. And for that, I'm going to use my finger to dab at it, not rub it, but dab at it, because I do want to keep the texture, but I don't want to use a lighter color because I don't want that to get any lighter. So that's why, you can kind of choose different blending techniques for different situations. So there's my shadow there. And then I need a little bit of something going on in this area. So I'm going to get that golden brown back and put just a hint of it right here. And a little bit of it on the lobe just to give it some variety. And then I'm going to take my original base color back and color over that so that even though I use the same golden brown as I did here, my blender is different, so the color will appear different. And then in this part, I need a little bit more of that golden brown as well to kind of define the upper part of that shape. And I'm going to use my light color again to blend that, my ivory. So there's our basic layering. Now I'm going to go back. I see there's a lot of white showing through here. So I'm going to, I mean white as in white paper. So I'm going to just take my ivory and go back and get rid of all those little dots showing through. Kind of help the skin on the face to turn into the neck a little bit by just dabbing at it here. More white dots. And I'm going to get that golden brown back. That is a very handy color to get a little bit of a shadow on the edge, the bottom edge of that upper crease. And I'm going to get a little bit at the top too. That'll help make that shape look rounder. And then I'm actually going to use, I'm going to use my original color, the flamingo-y pink again to blend it. And then I'm going to put in these bright little white highlights and the reds and see if I need anything else. So I'm going to start with the bright little white highlight. I'm pressing pretty hard and using a corner of the pastel right there to get it to show up a little bit more. Some right here for a little bit of shine. And some right where the ear transitions into the face. It looks like every time I blow, I blow the dust off, my picture levitates. And then for the red, I'm going to just grab a really bright orangey red and put a teeny little bit up here and an even teenier little bit right here. And then I'm also going to use it on the bottom of the lobe. It looks like that provides a nice sort of reflection on the bottom of the earlobe. And for those, since I don't want them to get lighter and I don't want to lose them, much like the shadow under the ear, I'm just going to sort of dab them in a little bit. On the ends of the red, I'm pulling so that the ends blend, but the center I'm just going to dab. And I do feel like I need some light on directly on that earlobe. So I'm going to grab my light ivory again and color in some whitish right here. And I sort of failed to get this little notch in there, which seems to have some gray to it. So I'm going to actually grab a gray, put that in there. That's going to be way too dark, but that's okay because I'm going to blend it with a much lighter color. I'm just going to go back to my ivory again and really kind of smear that into the surrounding area. Using the corner of the pastel to try to keep that edge pretty sharp. And that is a little too gray, so I'm going to put some of the pink over it too, just to warm it up a little bit and make it look like it's sort of married to the rest of the colors around it, even though it has a grayish presence, which we do want to keep. And lastly, I see there's a little bit of that brown shadow underneath that shape, which I didn't put in because it wasn't there until now, so now I can put it in. And then I will use my light ivory again to just kind of dab at the edges of that to blend it. I could use my finger here, but my finger feels a little too big, so this is another way of blending without removing too much of the color. Just use the lighter color and lightly dab it instead of rubbing. And just looking around, I feel like that is pretty good. So we're going to end there. You can feel free to continue until you are happy with your ear. I hope you gained some good skills from this class that you can now apply to some pastel portraits. Take care and have a beautiful day.